I'm Vinnie Politan, live from Denver, Colorado at CrimeCon 2025, where 7,000 of the most intense true crime junkies are all gathered here, and also joining them, some of the biggest podcasters and investigators in the nation. And one thing a lot of people are talking about today was yesterday's huge verdict in the case against Donna Adelson.
She had a little bit too much of an outburst. I was glad that the judge shut her down, but it was definitely the right verdict.
What's next for this family? What about Wendi?
I'm a little worried about Wendi.
One of the things here at CrimeCon is this wall of missing children. Everyone is so interested because they want to help. They want to help find these missing children. And something that people are talking about here as well, a lot of chatter about baby Emmanuel, who's missing out in California and whose parents were in court yesterday. And folks are wondering whether mom is going to turn on dad or if dad is going to turn on mom.
I think the father did it. I think, he had something to do with it. And I think the mother's lying for him.
I don't think he'll turn. I don't think he will.
Get ready for 2 hours of live true crime from the epicenter of true crime, CrimeCon 2025. Here we go. I'm Vinnie Politan. We are live in Denver, Colorado at CrimeCon 2025. Standing room only live audience tonight for the program. And yesterday was a big day on Court TV, you all know it, but I thought it might have been today. So what I brought with me to Colorado was the red verdict tie, which I planned on wearing tonight, but the verdict was yesterday. And what a dramatic moment. Take a look.
We, the jury, find as follows as to count one of the indictment, first-degree murder. The defendant is guilty of first-degree murder. Mrs. Adelson, control yourself. Count two. We, the jury, find as follows as to count two of the indictment, conspiracy to commit first-degree murder. The defendant is guilty of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder. Count three. We, the jury, find as follows as to count three of the indictment, solicitation to commit first-degree murder. The defendant is guilty of solicitation to commit first-degree murder. And it is signed and dated by the foreperson.
Donna Adelson breaking down inside the court, at one point admonished by the judge. A lot of people talking about that reaction, and we're going to talk about that tonight. But something else happened last night that may be more important in the case moving forward. After the verdict, the prosecutor of the year, Georgia Kappelman down in Florida, was speaking to reporters and speaking to Joel Waldman from Surviving the Survivor, frequent guest on our program, by the way, and everyone was asking questions. Take a listen to the question he asked and her response.
Georgia, does Wendi have reason to be worried tonight?
You said that word. That's a bad word.
A bad word.
No W questions.
Worried is a bad word? Well, last time.
Should we say stay tuned? Do we need to stay tuned?
Stay tuned. I mean, you can stay tuned.
Stay tuned for what happens to Wendi. All right, we've got a lot to talk about. Let's introduce our guests joining us live here at CrimeCon. We've got with us Brett Talley, federal prosecutor, appellate chief for the Middle District of Alabama, and co-host of the true crime podcast, The Prosecutors and The Prosecutors Legal Briefs. Brett, great to see you tonight. Welcome.
Glad to be here, man.
Also with us, Alice LaCour, former federal prosecutor, partner at a big firm, Hilgers Graben, co-host of the same podcast for The Prosecutors and The Prosecutors Legal Briefs. Great to have you here. And next to me, who is wearing some legal briefs tonight, by the way, criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor, and one of my co-hosts on the Tangent podcast, Al Wunsch III, and retired police commander, host of the podcast Profiling Evil, author of the book Deceived, Mike King is with us as well. Great to have everyone here. Okay, Mr. Prosecutor, should Wendi be worried tonight?
Look, Wendi should be very worried tonight, and not only because of what was said there, but because this is a prosecution team that is committed to getting justice, and that won't happen until everyone who's involved in this conspiracy is in prison, and frankly, Wendi is the last one standing.
The last one. He's leaving out Harvey, Mike. What do you, I just want to clear the air on Harvey. Do you think Harvey is in play at any point?
You know, other than Rob Adelson, I don't think anybody in that family has got a free road in front of them. I think there is so much that we're learning about the dynamics in the family, Vinny. The fact that there was control from the top down, and it was pretty darn obvious in the trial, and that Donna, at least from what we learned in this particular trial, controlled all the strings. And you know what? Harvey was right there to take her to Vietnam. Harvey was right there to support her through the entire court process. Is he responsible for anything? Heck, I don't know. But other than Rob Adelson, I think the rest of them need to be thinking about things.
Now, Alice, this prosecution is much different than many that we've covered through the years at Court TV. It's taken more than a decade. It's been like drip, 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 drip. Why? Does that help a prosecutor to do these, you know, first the three, the McBanoa and the two hitmen, then Charlie, then Donna? Does that mean that Wendi is next? And what are your thoughts about doing it that way?
Absolutely. These conspiracies are difficult to crack, especially when you have an entire family that is out to protect each other. So as each domino falls, the dominoes are getting bigger and bigger, and we're able to see them really crack into this case. The fact that this jury came back after such a short deliberation should make everyone else who is uncharged incredibly nervous.
Yeah. All right, Al. I'm going to put you in the room with Wendi Adelson tonight.
Yes.
Okay. As her lawyer.
Oh.
Yeah. So what are you saying to her? What advice would you give her? She's in Texas. Mm-hmm. This prosecution, obviously, if it happens, we don't know if it's going to happen. It was a stay tuned from Georgia Kappelman, is in Tallahassee in Florida. What are you telling her if you represented her?
If I was representing her right now, I would say head to Vietnam. There's no extradition there. And, I mean, even though mom screwed up, you know, maybe you can go through Mexico and then get to Vietnam.
But she's got 2 kids.
All right.
And the kids aren't fully grown yet, and that's a big deal here. Let me ask you, Brett, do you think that could potentially be one of the reasons? Do prosecutors ever have that in mind? Like, listen, these 2 kids, they lost their dad. Can we wait for the kids to grow up to prosecute mom? Is that even a consideration?
I mean, if mom killed dad, then no. I mean, if this were like a low-level drug charge, maybe. But no, I don't think that has anything to do with it. I think it's just, look, I mean, you could argue that Donna was in such control of this family that maybe Wendi didn't know anything. So that could be a consideration. Maybe they're hoping somebody will crack. Maybe they're hoping somebody will flip and say, look, I don't want to spend the rest of my life in prison. That's a possibility.
All right, let's take a look at some of the evidence against Wendi, because it's come out, you know, through the course of these trials that we've seen. First, I want you to take a look at this. This is a text message from Wendi to Dan, the victim, on July 6th, just before the murder. Wendi, are you in Tallahassee July 14th to the 18th? I just want to know if I can have the kiddos on the 16th. Thanks. Dan's response, yes, you can. What do you think of that, Mike?
I'll tell you what, looking at these communications, and specifically this one, isn't it interesting that it happens to be the same date ranges that McBanoa was helping the guys who end up responsible for this murder plan to rent a vehicle and make some travel on. You know, you can only have so many coincidences that you don't start to think something's going to stick and something's really stinky.
Okay, another piece of evidence. Take a look at this picture, because I'm fascinated by this picture, because I didn't think this would exist. So the woman on the right, I don't know who she is. She did nothing. On the left is a convicted murderer, right? The middleman, the broker. That's Katie McBanoa. In the middle, oh, that's Wendi. That's Wendi and Katie. Katie and Wendi. Take a listen to Wendi Adelson testifying about how she knew. Wait, Wendi testified that she only knew Katie through Charlie. But who was at the beach that day? Take a listen.
I think your testimony was that really you only knew her with Charlie, is that right?
That's right.
Was Charlie at the beach?
No.
Your mother wasn't there either, was she?
No.
Okay, Alice. Katie and Wendi, no Charlie in sight. He's not in the loop. It's not a beach day. It's a beach day with the gals. Is that compelling evidence, or is that just a photograph?
It's not just a photograph. When you're looking at this, you're trying to put some sort of story together. And what we have here is she's not being truthful. We have a picture that contradicts what she's saying. So if she were more truthful, a jury might be more inclined to believe her. But we already have a strike because she's not being truthful about this picture. There may be an innocent reason for this picture, but the fact that she's minimizing their relationship already cuts against her credibility. So no, it's not just a picture.
Yeah, and now what's happened through the course of these trials, Al, she's testified.
Right.
Again and again and again and again, but she's had this immunity where nothing she says
can be used
against her, or anything that derives from what she says.
Correct.
If she gets charged, would we see her testify again?
Well, I mean, I'm her attorney again?
Again,
okay.
You're in the room with Wendi Adelson as her lawyer.
Hey, she's not going to testify again. Okay, and the only stuff that they would be able to possibly use against her, which even with her immunity, is if she lied on the stand. So that's the interesting thing that comes up. That situation with regards to that picture, how do you explain it, is going to be something that they can use that evidence against her. So I'm going to say, listen, you know, you're not going to get up there. And I don't see any benefit of her talking at this stage of the game, because I still think it's kind of a tough. You know, the fact that everyone else seems to be involved and no one pointed at her from the family, I think makes that case very difficult for the prosecution.
Yeah. What do you think about the way prosecutors have used her for these other cases? Is that the reason that she hasn't been charged?
Well, obviously they made a decision that they were willing to potentially lose some pretty powerful evidence by giving her these immunity deals, because otherwise, is she going to testify? Is she not? Is she going to plead the fifth? I think they wanted to get as much out of her as they could to get these other convictions. If they have enough to move forward, they'll move forward, and they don't need her words. She will not testify. It would be the absolute worst thing she could possibly do. And it's just a question, look, is it just a photograph? Standing alone, yes. But then you put it with a text message. Then you put it with other things. All of a sudden, you're building this chain of inferences. You're building the circumstantial case.
Alice, any chance that prosecutors give a phone call to Donna? Donna, would you like to testify against your daughter in exchange for something? Or would you call Charlie?
I would absolutely see what deals I can cut. We have convictions and no sentencing yet. Whatever you can get out of Donna, look, she clearly thought she was going to get away with everything. That was real shock. She thought she got away with it.
Would you
Now she's
offer her
fighting for
anything that would give her a chance to be out of prison and still be alive? Because she's 75. I'm not wishing anything bad on her, but if she gets a 15-year sentence, that's a little rough. So any chance that a prosecutor would offer her something that would get her out of jail?
I think that the chips are all in the prosecutor's hand. They already have the conviction. They could go for the jugular, or because she's old, she's not the trigger puller, she's probably not going to go out and be a threat to society. I could see them offering that to make sure everyone who is part of this conspiracy gets convicted.
Okay. If you hear some noise in the background, folks, I'm telling you, 7,000 true crime enthusiasts, and they're coming in and out of all the programs that they have going here at CrimeCon. Take a listen, Mike. I want you to take a listen. This is Jeffrey Lacasse, Wendy's ex. Here's what he said.
After I challenge her, can I tell you something in confidence? Sure. Well, last summer, my brother looked into all options possible to take care of the Denny Markell problem, including hiring a hitman. This I found chilling, I found disturbing. It made my stomach flip.
How about that? Jeffrey Lacasse saying, Wendy's talking about, hey, my brother's Charlie talking to us about, every option's available, looking at maybe getting a hitman. How compelling is that to you? Do you believe him? He's an ex. He doesn't like Wendi. He doesn't like the Adelsons.
You know, the thing that I always think is interesting in these kinds of investigations is that It's more about what's not being said than what's being said. And we're starting to see this groundwork laid of a storyline that really is compelling, makes a whole lot of sense. And you get things like this comment from him as she comes back and tries to look like Teflon. It doesn't pan out in a juror's mind, because they're going to look at themselves and think, I would never say that to my ex-spouse. I would never say I didn't know this person if I hang out at the beach with them. I wouldn't text a date range. I'd say, are you available on the 16th so I can pick up the kids? So Vinnie, I think it boils down from a behavioral perspective to what's not being said, not just what's being said.
Putting the pieces together, I want you to give me a number, okay? 0 to 10, how strong do you believe the case against Wendi Adelson is? We'll start with Brett.
I'll say, right now, I'll say a 6.
A 6?
6.
A 6. Do the feds try a case if it's a 6?
We do not.
You do not. The feds don't. They don't like to lose. All right, 0 to 10.
No longer with the feds. I'm going to say 7.5.
7.5. You try the case?
I try the case.
Mike, 0 to 10, how strong you see this case?
You know, I'm about 50-50 on this one. I think there's a lot that has to come out. I thought that she revealed a lot in her testimony.
That can't be used against her.
That can't be used against her, but an investigator can say, I remember this.
Nothing
not
can be derived from it.
Prove they didn't derive it from him.
Oh, he's a sneaky investigator.
Yeah.
0 to 10 now.
5.
A 5. All right. I'm going to say it's a 6, but there's something else in play here, folks. That trial's in Tallahassee, Florida. I've been at Court TV back in the days when before I started dyeing my hair silver. That's how long I've been there. We've never covered a trial out of Tallahassee where the jury came back and said not guilty. So as long as you get in front of 12 folks from Tallahassee, it goes from a 5 or a 6 to a 7 or an 8. And if she wants the 8, she better hire Alan Jackson. All right, folks, we got a lot more to get to. When we come back, we're going to hear from our live studio audience, CrimeCon 2025.
Join Court TV's Vinnie Politan with the latest and breaking true crime stories.
Now, let's look at the other side of all of that.
Vinnie Politan Investigates. Tonight, 9/8 Central, only on Court TV.
We, the jury, find as follows as to count 1 of the indictment, first-degree murder. The defendant is guilty of first-degree murder. Mrs. Adelson, control yourself. Count 2.
Donna Adelson verdict.
Yeah.
Reaction.
Shocked. Very. Yeah, not what I expected. Not what I expected. Not what I was hoping for.
She had a little bit too much of an outburst. I was glad that the judge, shut her down. But it was definitely the right verdict.
I think she is the dumbest criminal I've ever encountered. Who in the world puts it all down in her handwriting?
Welcome back. We are live at CrimeCon 2025 in Denver, Colorado. We're talking about the big verdict yesterday. Donna Adelson, guilty, guilty, guilty. And now we've got some questions and comments from our live, standing room only studio audience. All right, let's go over here. You have a question?
I do.
Well, wait, let me get the microphone over to you. Here we go.
I'm a little nervous. Wow. First of all, I wanted to let everyone know he should have been a comedian. You wouldn't know that just watching his show, but he's pretty funny. Al, I have a question and a comment, actually.
Just so you know, I was a comedian.
Okay.
I thought so. Al, I like your suit. And I want to ask you, couldn't they get Wendi on perjury right now? I mean, have you watched all the cases? There's so many discrepancies in her testimonies.
15 years as a prosecutor, I never went for a perjury trial. And in a situation like that, with regards to...
You can add them up, though, right? Can't you add them up? There's
Let me ask you, is there a specific thing she said that you believe was perjury?
Yes, the K-turn. Oh, I made the K-turn. Then she just drove by and didn't make the K-turn at all. I mean, that was one right there.
All right, Brett, you going to prosecute someone for lying about a K-turn? No, you're not going to.
I mean, that's just one of them. Come on, we got it. You guys.
There's got to be much more to it. Honestly, it's not an easy prosecution to do, and it's really it's very ineffective. She's not going to get 25 years to life on a perjury charge.
But it'd be so nice
with
to
no
see her
prior
get arrested.
record, she'd probably get a slap on the wrist, and that would be it.
It'd be so nice to see her in jail, though, wouldn't it?
Well,
I'm sure the poor Dan Markel's family would love that.
But I honestly don't believe that she would be sentenced to jail if she was convicted of perjury.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great question. Another question over here. Get on up. Question, comment? What do you have for us?
Hi. So for everyone, we talked about Wendi Adelson possibly being prosecuted for the full extent of the law. And my question is, as attorneys and investigators, how are you able to kind of piece that together in order to kind of have a clear case against Wendi? She wasn't there at the murder scene. We know that for a fact. She conveniently called the Geek Squad to fix her TV. She got a conditional arrangement with being able to say kind of whatever she wants on the stand and not being held against her. So how are you able to kind of thread that main argument if you were the prosecutor of this case?
Alice, I'll start with you on that one. Thank you so much.
Right. I think there's a reason she hasn't been, charges haven't been brought against her. It is difficult. But what you have is you've had these multiple trials, multiple testimony. There are things we still don't know that are against Wendi because they don't matter for the other trials. So there's investigative files on her that we don't yet know. But as these other convictions come in, we begin to see the web come together against her. Circumstantial, but you've already heard some of it. These text messages. We have motive. We have relationships. We have this family dynamic. Not easy, but it's beginning to build stronger and stronger.
Mike King, your thoughts on that?
Well, Vinny, I had a really hard time, too many hours on the range, hearing what the question was.
Piecing it all together against Wendi. She got the immunity. How are you going to piece it together? She wasn't there. She's got an alibi.
Well, clearly you can't use what came out in the trial, so you have to go back to square one. They probably have a great amount of brick building that's already happening. When you start putting together the behavior and you start analyzing the behaviors against the things like forensic evidence or the physical evidence, but most importantly about the either not really confessions, but the admissions along the way when law enforcement's first talking to her about what happened, all of that. But I think that you start adding in the behavior, the changing of the children's names, all of that,
brutal. That was brutal.
is just so hard.
Let me ask you, Brett, how big would motive play? Like, motive, you don't have to prove it. It's not an element of the crime, but it's so persuasive in a case like this because who ultimately benefits? Not the children, it's Wendi.
And she was asked that question, who else would want to kill your husband? And you're exactly right. You don't have to prove motive, but motive is one of the most important things, especially in the mind of a jury. And I just want to say, you've got it. They have to piece it together. This is not going to be a one-witness trial where they say, oh, I saw him do it. But remember, what is her defense? Her defense is, I didn't know anything about this, right? But then you see things like the comment about, my brother was looking into hitmen. That starts to break that down. And if you convince a jury she knew this was going on, they're going to convict her.
All right, we've got another question or comment.
Do you think the defense attorneys have tanked their careers because of this case?
Oh, the defense attorneys. Can you tank a career when you lose a case this big? Al? You've never lost a case, Al, right?
No, I've lost cases. I'm not Darnell. I have lost cases because, but, you know, I also don't keep a record. As anyone who has played baseball in college, like I have, I didn't need to know how many home runs I hit or what my batting average was. I knew I was in the starting lineup, and that's all that counts. And that's the same thing in a courtroom, okay? Yeah. If you're not going to win every trial, it's impossible, okay? But nonetheless, it doesn't tank a career as long as you did a good job. And the best case to win is the case that you couldn't win, okay? But if you lose it, you weren't expected to win anyway, so.
And I don't think, no, was anyone expecting, let me show, anyone expecting Donna Adelson to win that case? No, all right, so I don't think there'll be that much harm. We've got another question or comment.
Okay, mine was on Donna Adelson, too. She was so defiant and she was so controlling. Were you surprised she didn't testify?
Oh, that's a great question. Surprised she didn't testify. Let's begin with Alice.
Oh my God. You never want your defendant to testify, but she has that whole Grammy look. She looks like this harmless person. It could have been on the line, except we know that the evidence was so stacked against her. We always say, you think you're smart enough to be able to talk the jury out of it. I think this jury knew exactly what was going on. If she testified or not, it wasn't going to help her. But I see what you're talking about. If you ever were going to have someone testify, she's kind of the best candidate for it.
Brett. Yeah. Brett, what happened here in one of the pretrial motions, the defense attorney sort of let it slip, was asked by the judge, how are you going to prove that? Well, she's going to testify. I know you're not bound to that, but do you think they were playing the prosecution, trying to make them waste some time in preparing for the cross-exam?
That's exactly what I think they were doing. I think they did that solely so they would have to spend some time thinking about how they were going to attack her. They probably spent a good amount of time thinking about how that cross was going to go, because if she testifies, that cross is the key to the case, right? And so, yeah, I think that was purely strategic. I don't think she was ever going to testify. I think that was always a smokescreen.
How about you, Mike? Were you surprised that she didn't, based on the way she has acted throughout? When she got arrested, do you remember? I don't know if you guys remember. When she got arrested, she had her cell phone with her. The officer takes her away. She goes, no, that's my cell phone. Like, who does that? Who does that? My lawyer. So were you surprised, based on the way she acted throughout, that she did not say, I'm going to testify?
I was absolutely surprised. I would have bet money that she would do that. Control is so important to her that I believe she would have thought, I can convince them like I've convinced and manipulated everyone else in my life. I'm sure that her lawyers were standing on her neck saying, you're not testifying, but I'm still wondering if she wasn't wanting to, even when things started sneaking out after the fact, that she might try to come back on that final day and say, I want to do it.
Yeah. And Al, yes, right before she declined to testify, there was all this hemming and hawing. The defense was asking, we need more time, we need more time. The judge said, listen, you're not the first criminal defendant to be on trial in the moment at the end of your case when you have to tell me whether or not you're going to testify. Right. Was it ridiculous, or is that just me?
It was ridiculous. I bet, and she's got that Professor Irwin Corey look, you know, with the hair up and everything like that. I would have put her on the stand. I would have put her on the stand, because you know what? I would have had her go up there, walk slowly up into the thing, get in, look feeble, okay, and just talk about the fact that, exactly. I probably would have had a walker for her, all right? And I would have had her get in there, okay? And just talk about the fact...
I'm walking so slow because of all the carbs they're feeding me.
And except that you promised food here. There was none.
There was none. There was none.
But I would have had her up there, and I would have had her testify as the old lady that was just, she was so surprised that this happened. She could not believe that her kids would have done this. Yeah. She didn't raise them this way. And she was more mortified than anybody that what happened.
And that's a good word. I can hear her saying mortified, but she didn't. All right, great questions from the studio audience. We've got more in the show tonight. When we come back, tragic story out of California. It's a heartbreaker. Little baby Emmanuel is still missing. His parents were in court. What's going to happen next? Will mom turn against dad? We'll talk about it. We are live from CrimeCon 2025.
Like, after what happened to their first baby.
I mean, everything could have been prevented. It was preventable from the very beginning.
my wife while she was trying to change his diaper.
It's appropriate to have a press conference because it was the defendants in this case that had a press conference first. And they did so in order to tell the public, the media, and ultimately law enforcement that their child had been kidnapped, when in fact that's not what occurred.
Within 24 hours through video surveillance, we found inconsistencies in Rebecca's statement.
Here in Cabazon at the parents' home, it is now a massive crime scene since the parents' arrest early this morning.
The filing in this case reflects our belief that baby Emmanuel was abused, victim of child abuse over time, and that eventually, because of that abuse, he succumbed to those injuries.
There is some level of cooperation with the suspects involved in this.
I believe that both of them are guilty, that we can prove it's guilty beyond a reasonable doubt for both the murder and the filing of a false police report.
Following the case of Jake Harrow and Rebecca Harrow.
This case so heartbreaking. Little baby Emmanuel Harrow out in Riverside, California, still missing tonight, has not been found. But mom and dad have been arrested. No charges, no details about the evidence they have as to why they've been able to charge them the way they have already with the murder of this baby who hasn't been found. But they say they have the evidence. Some other things have happened in this case that are really different than a lot of other cases we've covered. Most notably, it was on a Sunday afternoon when Jake Harrow, the father of baby Emmanuel, after Jake had been arrested, was then out at a search site, just standing there, not helping searchers, not pointing anything out off of highway, I think it's the 60 highway. He's just standing there with two detectives, not saying over here, over there, and then he left. They obviously didn't find baby Emmanuel, but he was there. His wife, the mother of baby Emmanuel, was not there. People didn't quite understand what was happening. I mean, I think at first we all thought, oh, Jake got a deal. Jake turned. Jake is flipping, because that's what he did the first time he was accused of harming a baby. This is not a child abuse case. This is baby abuse we're talking about. His first daughter, 10 weeks old, with healing wounds. How on earth does a 10-week-old baby have healing wounds? He pleaded guilty and was given a break by the judge. So Jake Harrow was able to walk out of the courtroom while his victim, his little baby daughter, will never walk, ever. It's not like she won't walk again. She will never walk, because she was just 10 weeks old when all this happened, and it was ongoing abuse. So now he's charged with the murder of Emmanuel, and so is his wife. But he doesn't have a deal. And prosecutors said they've been somewhat cooperative, the suspects. I don't know what that means. Let's bring back in our guests to talk about this. We are live at CrimeCon. We've got Brett Talley, federal prosecutor, Alice LaCour, former federal prosecutor. Together they are The Prosecutors and The Prosecutors Legal Briefs. Incredible podcast. You need to check it out. Mike King, Profiling Evil, retired police commander. And Al Wunsch, incredible attorney, is also with us. So, first of all, Mike, let's just talk about the search and what was happening that day. What are your thoughts about where baby Emmanuel could be and what they could try to figure out about trying to find this child?
You know, like many of us, the first thing I thought of is he's cut a deal to go out there with law enforcement. Two investigators that we're aware of, but there were a batch of searchers out there at the same time, Vinny, and you don't bring a bunch of people out unless you got some reason to think this is good information, that this is credible. Sometimes law enforcement might take a suspect out to a location like that to watch their behavior, watch if they're looking in any specific area. We don't know if there were telematics off of the vehicle that led investigators there, and they were just taking Jake out to watch Jake and how he responds, or whether Jake was saying, hey, I can point you, but now I can't remember quite where it was. But the other thing that really troubled me about this entire thing was we really don't know when that little baby disappeared. So we don't know if animal predation is involved in this, and if that child was carried off by a mountain lion, which are common in that area, or by coyote or other kinds of predators. But if in fact that happened, there would be more physical evidence in the area where the body would have been that those cadaver dogs would have picked up. So it makes you think, was this all a hoax, or were they just testing him to see if they could figure out where he's looking?
Right. So prosecutors have laid out a range of when this, on or about, we know those magical legal words, but August 5th to August 14th is the range of when they believe this happened. They also said it was ongoing behavior. That's why they've charged mom and dad. But it's a baby. It takes 2 adults to murder a baby? I don't understand that. Alice, both of them are arrested. Are you approaching either to attempt to flip on the other? And if so, who would you approach first?
Absolutely. I think that someone is covering for someone else. And you take your run at both of them. I'm going to mom, because dad has a history of abuse. Mom could also be under his thumb. She could be protecting him. There is a reason that you go after the mom. And also, exploit is the wrong word here, but this is her baby. She can get justice for this baby. Right now, she is protecting someone, I think. So I would take a run at both of them, but I think you're gonna have more luck with mom.
Al, let me ask you, if you're representing mom here.
Yes.
Sorry, I keep giving you these horrific clients.
Well,
but you got
that's what I'm here. The hard questions, Vin.
If you're representing mom, are you running to prosecutors? Or are you going to stick with the Ola man did it?
Well, okay.
Don't forget her story, her original story.
Yes.
Was that she was changing the baby in front of the Big 5 sporting goods store, and she heard someone say Ola, and then she blacked out, or no, she saw white, didn't see or hear anything, and then she got knocked out cold, one of those karate chops in the back.
Yes.
And then when she came to, the baby was gone.
Yes.
Are you running to prosecutors?
Yes. Okay, but I read what they did with him going to that area differently. I read that because she's been taking the position of stand by that man.
Yeah.
Okay. And what better way to erode that than to say he's out here looking for a deal? Whether or not he actually did anything, he's standing in an area that she recognizes, and he's there. So if I'm the prosecution in this, I go, well, you know what? I tell you what, he ain't looking to protect you. He's out here cooperating, and then maybe that's going to pierce her, shell and say, you know what? I better start talking. So.
Would you ever do that, Brett?
Hey, it's the oldest trick in the book. You put both suspects in different rooms and you say, that guy's telling us everything.
Room. He's next to the 60 highway.
Right, but it's the same thing. You want to send a message to her, like, look, this guy may be talking. The other possibility is they have evidence that the baby is somewhere there, and they want him to know, we're going to find this body. And if you're going to talk, you better do it now. That's another possibility there.
But what happened here, Mike, were you surprised? They did the search on a Sunday. Then Matt Johnson, Court TV, crime and justice correspondent, out there on the ground, goes back to, they're not there the next day.
Yeah, I found that
one-day search.
Really troubling that they would stop that quickly. So it tells me that it was more of a fishing expedition than we've got credible evidence that suggests, because if you do believe there's a body buried somewhere or tucked under a bush, you're going to cordon that area off and you're going to grid search that thing with a fine-tooth comb. To walk away a day later, it just tough. Really seemed tough.
All right, Alice, it's a murder charge. I can hear the defense already, one or the other, saying, because I heard it before years ago in Orlando, Florida, don't remind me, it was an accident. We panicked. How do you prove the murder? Because if they bring in a jury from Pinellas County, Florida, you're in trouble.
We're talking about a baby here, and we have indication that this isn't a one-time thing. It's not an accident. You know what shows it's not an accident? Ongoing child abuse to this baby who cannot defend itself. We have prior convictions of the dad of ongoing abuse. That's not an accident. That is deliberate, calculated, cold-blooded murder.
All right, big thanks to our incredible panel. Al, you're out of time. You're out of time. Owen, cut his mic. Cut his mic. Brett Talley, Alice LaCour, Al Wunsch, Mike King, thank you so much. When we come back, something else you need to know. We are live at CrimeCon 2025.
I've got golden tickets to my show tonight I got to give out to some folks. So let's see if anyone wants to come to the show. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I got some golden tickets to my program tonight that I'm going to give away right here, right now, randomly. I've got another one. Who wants to go?
I want to go.
Who wants to go to the show? VIP!
Join Court TV's Vinnie Politan with the latest and breaking true crime stories.
Now, let's look at the other side of all of that.
Vinnie Politan Investigates. Coming up next, only on Court TV.
Studies show that having lots of books at home is one of the best ways to help a child succeed in school and beyond.
That's why the Scripps Howard Fund started the If You Give a Child a Book campaign.
So please, if you could give a child a book today,
we would be so grateful.
Welcome back. Time to reveal something else you need to know tonight. Let's go back to the mothership and see what's behind the big board tonight. 29,568. 568. What is that number? That's from the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. That is the number of children in just 1 year that were reported missing in 2024. That is the reason why at the end of closing arguments every night since our launch, we profile a missing child. But tonight I have a special treat for everyone here live at CrimeCon 2025. Joining us, and please give him a round of applause. He does amazing work. Callahan Walsh, the executive director at the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. You and your organization obviously are awesome, and we appreciate you coming here, and we appreciate you sharing that information so we can get it out to our audience. Tell us a little bit about that number.
Right, and we're working at around 30,000 missing children's cases at any one time. Children go missing many different ways. Some are abducted by strangers. Some are taken by non-custodial parents. Some children run away. But the fact is that these children are in danger, and we need the public's help to highlight their cases and bring them home. And we do that through the media, through these partnerships that we have to get these images out there to bring these children home safely.
Now, a question that I get all the time, because we do it every night at the end of the program, people want to know, what happened? Did you find him? Did you find her?
Yeah.
And I have to explain that we don't reveal that. What I want you to do is explain why.
Right. So when a child goes missing, our job is to ring those bells, to put this machine in motion and to get as much media attention, as many eyeballs on these cases as possible. But we have to remember, these are children, and they deserve privacy. So when these children are found, we need to put that whole machine in reverse. Take all those posters down, get all of that stuff sanitized and down so that these families can heal, that they can recover, and then they can live that life that they need to live. And so, you know, oftentimes we don't get that feedback loop of exactly all the details and what happened in the case. And honestly, that's really done out of privacy of these families and for these children.
Okay, I'm glad you were able to explain that, because I tried to explain it, but now I'll do a much better job of it. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
We have a missing child, sort of, tonight.
Right.
Explain to us about Christopher Abeyta.
Yeah, so Christopher Abeyta, he's 7 months old, kidnapped in the middle of the night, front door left open. This is nearly 40 years ago.
40 years ago?
40 years ago. And we know with infant abductions, when children are abducted under the age of 1 year old, that oftentimes they're still alive. They're out there somewhere. There's a very good possibility that this individual is living with a different name than he was born with, has no idea that he was even a kidnapped child, and could very well be out there alive today. And he has a desperate family that's been searching for him ever since.
Ever since. So let's get the picture up of the, how are these done, these particular photos?
Right. So this is an age progression of what we believe he may look like now, and we do these with our forensic unit at the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. We try to get every family picture we can. Mom, dad, brother, sister, but even aunt, uncle. You know, sometimes we don't always look just like our parents. Sometimes we go, oh, you got your uncle's eyes, you know? Yeah. So we get as many pictures as possible, and then we try to determine what this individual may look like
And that's
today.
what we have right here. We're out of time. Callahan Walsh, thank you so much. Incredible work. Great to see you again.
Likewise.
All right, folks, don't go anywhere. We've got another hour of live true crime. And as always, please don't forget to hug the kids.
the show, please.
I'm Vinnie Politan. Welcome to Vinnie Politan Investigates. And tonight, the subject of our investigation is Lori Daybell. We've been following this story, this case, this saga, this tragedy for years. And tonight, we're going to dive into that. For those of you not familiar with Lori Daybell, here's the story.
In one of the most haunting sagas of faith, manipulation, and death, Lori Vallow Daybell and Chad Daybell became household names for all the wrong reasons. Lori, once a suburban mother, was lured deeper into Chad's apocalyptic visions, a self-proclaimed prophet who preached of dark spirits and a coming end of days. Their union spiraled into a chilling nightmare. Lori's two children, J.J. Vallow and Tylee Ryan, vanished in 2019, sparking nationwide headlines and a desperate search for these missing children. Months later, their remains were discovered buried in Chad's Idaho backyard, a revelation that stunned the nation. Chad's first wife, Tammy Daybell, had also died suddenly. Her death later ruled suspicious. Together, Lori and Chad stood accused of weaving twisted religious beliefs into a justification for murder, erasing anyone who stood in their way. Their story is one of obsession, control, and the destruction of innocent lives, leaving a trail of grief and a courtroom filled with unanswerable questions.
A lot of unanswerable questions, you know, when you talk about the why of this, but that's part of the investigation. I want to zero in on Lori Daybell because I didn't know her years ago. I only got to know her after everything happened. But I want to take a look at this. This is Lori on Wheel of Fortune, right? This is back in, what year, 2004? You're going to see that. Then you're going to see her again in 2023. It's like a before and after. Take a look.
Hi, how you doing, Lori? Lori Ryan from Austin, Texas.
That's right.
Hairstylist in Austin, hey?
That's right, the best.
How's the hair in Austin?
It's good.
Good.
Us is a happening place.
Probably thanks to you.
Pretty much.
Talk about your family a little bit.
I have a wonderful husband, Joseph, at home, who is watching our two beautiful children, Colby, who's 7, and Tylee, who is 1.
Yeah, what do you guys like to do for fun?
We like to play all kinds of sports on our 3 acres.
Okay, sounds like you have a nice life there.
We do.
I was told by Jesus that I needed to go back and complete things that I had covenanted or promised to do before I was born. This caused me a lot of distress because I knew heaven was my real home, and I only wanted to be there. I was free from pain, emotional and physical. But then I was shown how I would help my children and others in the future. So ultimately, I did agree to go back to my body.
Those are two different people. Those are absolutely two different people. And that brings us to the first question in our investigation. And it's all about Lori Daybell. What happened to Lori? How do you go from what we saw in 2004, I mean, completely normal, to what we saw in 2023 and everything surrounding it? Joining us tonight to answer this question, we have with us to my left, Nate Eaton, the news director, reporter, storyteller for EastIdahoNews.com. Broke the story, covered it more in depth than anyone. To my right, ladies and gentlemen, this is Colby Ryan, the only surviving child of Lori Daybell, creator and host of the Scar Wars podcast and YouTube channel. Colby, thank you so much for joining us. And to his right, the lead investigator in the case from the Rexburg Police Department, Lieutenant Ray Hermosillo. Thank you all so much for being here. We really appreciate it. And Colby, I think for all of us, you knew her. Like, it's your mom.
Yeah.
When you look back and saw her from 2004 to 20, what happened?
I think a slow process of a lot of different things, but yeah, I mean, you can say it's two different people. I think she was this super bubbly, fun person that everybody liked to be around, to being the leader of, our co-leader of a cult that is willing to harm people and take their lives to get what they want. So
Was there, when was the moment? Because there had to be a moment at some point where in your mind you're like, wait a minute, something's going on here. Something's wrong with my mother.
When I fully realized how bad the scale of it was is when Nate saw her in Hawaii and was interviewing her, and I saw her and I knew she had run away, and it had been months since we had talked, and that's when I knew it was really bad. That's when I knew.
And was there anything in the behavior or conversations before then that changed? Like at that point, you know something's terribly wrong with the children being missing.
Right.
But in the way that she communicated, spoke to you, or, you know, I don't know, was there any sort of detection from you that wait, that's not my mom?
Right, yeah. I mean, she got more religious over time, but I mean, really when she was in jail is when I spent the most time talking to her after she had already disappeared. Then she goes and gets arrested. That's when I had the time with her, and that's when I tried asking those questions, and she had a really good front. So to be honest with you, I was confused more than anything. After they found the kids, everything changed. So that's when I did.
I should ask you at the top, how are you doing?
I'm all right.
You're okay?
Yeah, I am. Good. I'm doing a lot better now. It's been a lot of years, and after these trials, I'm able to close the book on that part of my life. Yeah.
You're a dad, right?
Yeah.
How are the kids?
Good.
Good?
They're doing really good.
That's the smile I like to see. Nate, I mean, you got to sit down and do the interview with her.
Yeah.
Obviously, you didn't know her beforehand, but you have studied every facet of her life. What do you think happened to Lori?
I don't know if it was one big thing that suddenly changed her, much of what Colby was saying. I think it was a series of events. She became obsessed with the end of times. She started reading book after book after book, and gradually she wanted to feel that she was somehow called of God to do these type of things. Even today, 3 hours ago, she sent me a message. She knew that I was going to be here with Colby. And I told Colby, I said, your mom sent me a message, and it said, tell Colby I love him, no matter what, and have him read Matthew 25. Wow. So even today, she's sending messages to Colby saying it's all about religion. No apology, no anything like that. So I don't know when the big shift happened, but it seemed to be gradual.
Now, let me ask you this. You said books. Was it just the Chad Daybell books?
No, from everything I've understood and from everybody I've talked to, it was a different sort of books. Chad wrote fictional type books in the beginning at least, and then End of Times, but it was other books. It was the whole topic. If someone wrote a near-death experience book, she wanted to read it. If it was End of Times, she wanted to read it.
All right, Lieutenant, obviously this tragedy, right? The loss of these children. An amazing work, by the way.
Thank you.
You know, people looked at this case, they said, oh, it's in this small town in Rexburg. Oh, this is going to be a disaster. No, it was anything but a disaster. It was incredible work that you guys did, and gals. Lori Daybell, like, how long did it take you to understand, you know, what you were dealing with Lori?
You know, it took us a little while because she really wasn't communicating with us. And so everything we were getting, all the information we were getting was third party. It wasn't until we started listening to jail phone calls between her and Chad that we finally heard her speak really for the first time and kind of gathered where her mindset was sitting in jail when she was joking around or singing on the phone to Chad. You know, those type of things weren't normal behavior when you're sitting in jail and you have 2 kids missing.
Yeah. So, Colby, what are your thoughts about Lori sending those messages, trying to reach out to you? Are they welcomed?
No.
No?
There's nothing there. I mean, I spoke with her on the last time I spoke with her was through the interview that I did with her on my channel. And when I gave her the freedom to say anything she wants, tell me the truth, Lori. Tell me everything. I will let you talk and I will listen. She chose to lie about my sister and say that she killed JJ, and she chose to go that route and blame someone else rather than take any responsibility. So there's nothing to discuss, and for me it just shows that she has reinforced her own delusion to herself, I think as a survival technique or something, but there can never be a relationship. There's nothing there.
I feel like you're in a position, I've lost my parents, right? So when I think of my parents, I don't think at the end of their lives. Right. I think of everything else. What's it like for you? Do you think back to when you were younger and mom was mom, or do you just kind of not think about that at all?
I think when you have such a drastic change, I can appreciate and enjoy the good times that we had in life. But when I think of Lori, I think of someone who's passed away. And I've just let that part of me grieve her in the past, and now I'm at a point where I'm healing from that as well. So I know she's alive, I know she's in jail, but I don't really think about her at all, to be honest with you.
Lieutenant, what was the most, because I'm sure through the years you've investigated a lot of things, and a lot of, you know, investigators can get a little hardened about things, and nothing surprises me, nothing shocks me. Was there anything or any moment when you're like, oh my goodness, I can't believe what I just found out during the course of this investigation?
That's a good question. I mean, originally it was every day early on in the investigation, from when we heard about zombies and bugs crawling in your ear to take over the body, and just kind of their belief system. And then shortly after all that happened, Alex Cox passed away. And it was just a whirlwind, and all these things were happening at one time. So one day to the next, it seemed like at every turn there was always a surprise. So yeah, I mean, that whole thing in the very early stages of the investigation, we were surprised daily.
Yeah. How about you, Nate? Like, any idea? I know for us at Court TV, and we were relying on what this guy is reporting to try to get some understanding of this story, the case, the investigation, and the tragedy. For you, did you have any idea, like the first time you covered the story, that it could end up to like where we are right now?
No way in the world. And in a way, I'm kind of glad, because it probably would have scared me to death.
Yeah.
And in those early days after we went to Hawaii and found Lori and Chad, Alex, we didn't know what was happening. We didn't know who was on the hit list. I mean, Detective Hermosillo, he was the darkest of the dark on Lori's list. You know what?
Really?
You know what happened to dark people?
Yeah.
Yeah. They're not around much longer. He was on the dark list. I was worried, was I on the dark list? What was happening when Chad and Lori were still out? So, yeah, as he said, we were learning new things every day. It wasn't until both Chad and Lori were in jail that it was kind of like, and that was after the kids were found that week, that it was like, okay.
Everyone remembers that day.
Yeah.
That day. Okay. We've got more to get to. We've got a live studio audience here who has questions and comments. When we come back, we'll hear from them. We are live at CrimeCon 2025. What are your thoughts about Lori Daybell?
Well, I mean, the interviews she's been doing, I think that kind of speaks for themselves, don't you think? A little crazy.
Coming soon to Court TV.
A Microsoft executive gunned down. Now his ex and her new husband are charged with his murder.
Brian Walsh, accused of murdering his wife, Anna.
It's very disturbing, very heart-wrenching.
A social media sensation, now a suspected killer.
Why do you have something against me?
She wrote a children's book about her husband's death. Now she's accused of killing him.
The high-stakes trials you don't want to miss. Coming soon. Only on Court TV.
This is a loaded question for you. Lori Daybell, what are your thoughts of her?
I'm glad that her cases are over. I'm excited about a Lori-free future. We have no litigation on the horizon to look forward to. And, you know, I didn't even watch the video of her extradition that you guys posted until a week after because I really just didn't care. And once I did watch it, it was, you know, her histrionics again, breathing the fresh air and pretending to just be everything's wonderful and hunky-dory.
Tell us all from the inside one thing about Lori Daybell that the public doesn't really know.
She's deeply, deeply insecure.
That's Megan Connor, Lori Daybell's cousin, who is here at CrimeCon. We're live at CrimeCon 2025. I spoke with a bunch of people today because, you know, this story transcended true crime for years, and everybody has an opinion. Here's some of what some of the folks on the floor here had to say. Thoughts about Lori Daybell?
Guilty. I think she's crazy. Yeah, sick, crazy, out of her mind.
What questions do you have about Lori Daybell?
I watch so much court TV that I just know everything.
Great answer, by the way.
I'm confused.
By her?
Yes.
By what she did?
Yes.
She's a disgrace. My name's Lori, and it disgusts me. Everything that she did.
I don't know who that is.
You don't know Lori? And that brings us to the next question in our investigation, and it's about you. What do you want to know about Lori Daybell? And we've got our live studio audience here that has some questions and comments, and we're beginning right here. Good evening. Let me get on this side, it'll be easier. Question, comment?
So from all three of you, do you think she believes her religious delusion or she's using it as a manipulation tactic?
I think she believes it, at least most of it. But I also think she uses it to manipulate people, so kind of both.
I mean, she's going to use that as her excuse to, I think, use the evil in her heart.
I would echo what Nate said. She honestly believes it, and she uses it to manipulate people.
What did you think?
I think she's using it to manipulate people.
Yeah.
I think she just, like, over the years used her beauty, her fame, like, just how beautiful she was, and she realized how to use her sex and her sexy appeal.
Yeah, I agree. Another question.
Well, first I wanted to make a comment.
Sure.
When I see clips of Daybell, he just seems like he has no charisma at all. I don't even see how a dog would follow the guy, much less a group of women. So my question for Colby, when you first met Chad, what was your impressions of him?
I think the first time everybody in this room was here, and I've never met him, but I walked by, and I was told, do not look at him. And I just had to do one look, and right when I looked at him, he looked very scared. And so I thought, there's nothing there. You know, I don't get it, but that's it.
Nate, how did he get all these women to follow him?
Well, I don't know how many women actually were following him. There were a handful, of course. Yeah, maybe 3 or 4. You're right, he's not charismatic. His writing isn't the best. His speaking isn't the best. What kind of amazed me is the transformation of Chad from when we first saw his driver's license photo when they said he was missing till weeks later in Hawaii. He looked like a different man. His hair was done. He was in shorts, flip-flops.
Lost weight?
He lost weight. He had a tan. Lori really was putting him on, I think it came out at the trial, the Lori diet, the Lori health plan. So he really did change himself. But yeah, not a charismatic guy.
Yeah, I think it was, you know, middle-aged crazy. A little early. He got early middle-aged crazy. We've got another question. Yes.
I'm curious, and this is for anybody and everybody on the panel. When the final sentence is imposed upon Chad Daybell, how do you think that will impact Lori? Will she become more religious? Will she, at one time she was incompetent to stand trial. Could that Could that be, will she break her? Will it, I mean.
And when you say final sentence, you mean death chamber?
Yes.
Okay. What are your thoughts here, Lieutenant?
I couldn't hear the question.
The question is, how do you think Lori will react the day Chad Daybell is executed? What will her reaction to that be?
You know, there were only a few times we really saw any change in behavior in Lori. And one of those times is when Chad was arrested on June 9th in 2020. So I think you're going to see some type of emotion from Lori just because of how she was June 9th when he was arrested.
What do you think, Colby? How do you think Lori will respond, or you don't even want to think about it?
I mean, I think that she actually cares about him for whatever reason, so I think she'll definitely have some kind of reaction, or maybe she'll be waiting for, thinking they're waiting in heaven together. I don't know. I mean, it's just a crazy thought. I don't know.
Nate, how do you think she's going to react to that?
She told me during an interview with me a month ago that they would be exonerated. I said, will that be before Chad is executed? And she went, yes, Nate. Like, yes, it will be. And she, so when that day comes, that will be fascinating to see.
Okay, we got another question right here.
Mine is, you know, we talk about mental health and we talk about Lori Daybell being maybe the manipulator or manipulated, but it's kind of, she had 5 husbands, so she definitely was a manipulator, but I think it did go both ways. And then the other one is for you. We don't know much about your personal life compared to, are you married? Do you have children? We know about Colby and we know about Nate, but.
I am married and have 2 kids. Yep.
Very nice. I'm not looking.
Dang it.
I thought we had a whole different show about to happen right here at CrimeCon. I want to take the opportunity to, Lieutenant, incredible work. Thank you so much for joining us. I know it's a busy, they do so much here at CrimeCon. I know it's been tiring, but we appreciate you coming on. Nate Eaton, I just want to shake your hand. This guy is journalist with capital J, okay? And finally, Colby, you know that everyone you meet here tonight, their hearts are with you, and I hope that gives you some strength. And don't forget to hug your kids.
Yeah.
I know you won't. I know you won't. All right, folks, we've got more to get to. When we come back, we're going to talk about an unsolved case out of Colorado. The biggest unsolved case out of Colorado. JonBenet Ramsey, her dad, will join us next. Vinnie Politan. The subject of our investigation here live at CrimeCon 2025 is, this case, you talk about true crime, you talk about mysteries, you talk about tragedy, you talk about heartbreak. It's the biggest of the big. It's obviously the biggest in Colorado, but I would argue historically, working at Court TV all these years, this is the one case that time and time again, people are like, when will there be an answer? And obviously I'm talking about the case of JonBenet Ramsey. For those of you who don't recall some of those details, here's the story.
On Christmas night, 1996, the quiet wealth of Boulder, Colorado was shattered by a mystery that still chills America. JonBenet Ramsey, a 6-year-old beauty queen with a radiant smile and glittering stage presence, was found brutally murdered in the basement of her family's grand home. Hours earlier, her mother, Patsy Ramsey, had called 911, hysterical over a chilling ransom note demanding $118,000, the same amount as her husband John's work bonus. Why would someone leave a rambling ransom note in a case where the child was murdered and left inside the home? It did not make sense. Through the years, detectives clashed, evidence was mishandled, and leads went cold. Nearly 3 decades later, the case remains unsolved. But it's a case that seemingly could be solved through forensic evidence and upgraded DNA technology. The question is, will JonBenet ever get justice?
And again, this is a story. I've been at Court TV a long time, and this has been a story throughout my career at Court TV. There were some big moments where, there was some hope, but it never really happened. And it's confusing because it seems like it's a case that is solvable. Well, guess what, folks? There's a new chief in Boulder, Colorado, in charge of the police department, who are in charge of this investigation. Take a listen to what he had to say.
Well, I was not at Boulder Police 28 years ago. I have worked in policing for more than 20 years, and I want to assure you that our agency is committed to doing everything we can to bring justice to JonBenet and hold her killer responsible. So much of how law enforcement works has changed in the last 30 years. There are a number of things that people have pointed to throughout the years that could have been done better, and we acknowledge that is true. However, it is important to emphasize that while we cannot go back to that horrible day in 1996, our goal is to find JonBenet Ramsey's killer. Our commitment to that has never wavered.
And that brings us to the first question in this investigation. And it's about the investigation. What's the latest in the investigation of JonBenet's murder? There has to be some progress, doesn't there? They've got to be doing something different. Joining me to help answer that question, JonBenet's dad, John Ramsey, is with us. John, thank you so much for joining us. Great to see you again. Great to check in with you. Also with us is Paula Woodward, Emmy Award-winning investigative reporter, author of We Have Your Daughter, The Unsolved Murder of JonBenet Ramsey, and has been on the story since the beginning. Paula, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Let me start with you, John. What is the latest in the investigation?
Well, that's a big question that I don't have a great answer for. We met with the chief of police yesterday.
Yesterday you met with the chief?
Yes.
Okay.
And we met with him back in January and got an update to the degree we could. They're very, they don't tell us a lot. And I respect that because that's how a police department should operate. But we still want to know. I wish they'd call me every day and tell me what was going on. But the first thing that had happened in that police department was a new chief. They suffered from very poor leadership for years, in my opinion. And nothing was going to happen until we got a new leadership from outside the system. A number of their detectives were recommended for termination, including the one that handled our case for 25 years. That had to happen. He's gone. There's a new detective. I've met him. He's a very, very sharp fellow, good experience. All that had to happen before anything was going to move forward. And so that was a big step. We've been advocating to the police, to chief of police, that this DNA technology has advanced so far. The last DNA testing done in our case was about, I don't know, 8 years ago, 9 years ago.
Wait. So the last testing was 8-9 years ago?
Right.
The technology changes like year to year.
Every day, yeah.
Let me ask Paul this. Are you surprised? You're there day one. Are you surprised we're still here 2025 and we don't have an answer?
You know, I've been fairly relentless on this case because I'm very pro-law enforcement. But Boulder police have done so much wrong, and they continue to do that wrong. And I want to keep the publicity up on them and have you good people help because there needs to be pressure on them to do the right thing. So far, they still aren't.
Okay, now, John, we're here at CrimeCon, right? There's a lot of experts and people talking about different ways to investigate cases. I bumped into a man named Jared Bradley, who has a company. I want you to take a look at what he does, and I want to get your reaction to it. Right. Take a look.
We're here with Jared Bradley. Jared, you've got this incredible machine, new technology in DNA. What is it?
So this is called the MVAC system. It basically works like a medical grade carpet cleaner. It sprays the sterile solution down onto the surface and then vacuums it up. So whatever DNA is on the surface, it'll penetrate down into the cracks and crevices where the DNA might be, and it gets way deeper than the traditional methods like swabbing.
Right. So what you're telling me is we can take old evidence and retest it and find DNA that we couldn't find before?
Absolutely.
Wow.
In fact, the FBI even tested it, showed that even after swabbing, it still collects up to 66 times more than what the swab originally did.
All right, you're going to do a demo for us.
Yes, sir.
All right, tell me what you're doing here.
Okay, so I've already pressurized the solution. So basically, this is the actual collection device. This is the solution that gets sprayed down. This is what's called an extension tubing. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the vacuum on, and then I'm going to turn the spray on. It's going to spray in the middle and then vacuum along the outside. And that's kind of what creates a little mini hurricane down there that enables the DNA to be collected. So you can see it spraying there, and then it just sucks it up. So I'm going to get all this surface area here. Now, if I want to actually get DNA all off of this hat, I can just spread it down there. I can turn the liquid on, and then it just gets down into the fibers where the DNA is going to be attached, and it just gets a lot deeper. Just like a carpet cleaner is going to collect a lot better than what a broom would on this carpet here. So,
all right, you collect it. Then what do you do with it?
Once it's collected, it's a great question. It's right now all the DNA is suspended right here in the bottle. Okay, so I'm going to take this bottle off. It's a two-step process, so I'm going to take this bottle off. This is what we call our liquid gold, because we got all our DNA stuffed in there. And then this is a 0.45 micron filter, and I'm going to take this vacuum line off. Put the vacuum line onto the filter. Now, because the goal is to get rid of all the liquid, but keep all the DNA. So I'm going to swirl this around a little bit, pour it right over the top of this filter. You're going to see all the liquid's going to flow through it. So now all the liquid's gone, but all the DNA is right there, and you can see just some little fibers and things from that hat.
Oh, wow. And is that getting trapped on that surface?
Right, so all the DNA right now is trapped on that surface, and this is what we actually send to the lab, and they process it basically the same way that they do a swab or anything else.
Is this being used right now?
All the time, yes.
And what kind of results are we getting?
Fantastic results. The oldest cold case that we've helped solve is 56 years.
Wait a minute, you took a piece of evidence from 5+ decades ago,
Yes.
retested it with this machine, and were able to solve the case.
Yes.
That's amazing. And who are you working with?
We work with all sorts of crime labs, all sorts of agencies, both private and public crime labs. But I know one particular crime lab down in Florida has told us that they have solved, just their lab, over 700 cases with the MVAC.
Wow. Have you spoken to John Ramsey at all about the JonBenet case?
not personally, but I've talked to a lot of people about that case. We'd love a shot at it.
Yeah, absolutely. So great to meet you. Thanks for the demo.
Oh, my pleasure.
Amazing technology that we're seeing here at CrimeCon.
What do you think, John?
Well, you know, Lou Smith, the legendary detective that was brought in on this case by the DA early on, solved over 200 homicides in his career, was in retirement. And he spent months looking at the case and told me, I don't know, a year or two later when I really got to know him, he said, this case will be solved by DNA, period.
Period.
Period. And
there still is evidence to test, right? They've kept all
as far as we know. Well, there's two things that have to happen. Obviously, if there's evidence that still needs to be tested, obviously that should be tested. But more importantly, to be able to take advantage of this forensic, it's a mouthful, forensic genealogy research, basically, we have to retest it and get the sample in a different format to be compatible with the vast database of DNA samples that are out there. That has to happen. And to
your knowledge, that hasn't happened yet?
Correct. To my knowledge, no.
Paul, do you think it's going to happen?
I don't know. I don't understand why they're not seemingly doing anything, but that's been their modus operandi since the very beginning. What they're doing and what they're not doing does not make sense. And it's very discouraging. It's very frustrating to them. They're not getting justice. What's wrong with testing the DNA? What's wrong with testing the crime scene items? We're the ones who came up with a list for them of what hadn't been tested or was partially tested.
Are you serious?
Yes.
You had to give the list?
We gave it to the state, and the state gave it to Boulder Police.
Wow. So, what's the explanation? Like, why all of this wouldn't be done? We cover cases every day, cold cases. This is solved, that is solved. I mean, they're prosecuting people off of pieces of pizza crust because they're using all the technology.
No. The fundamental reason for 27 years was the police believed that it was either Patsy or I that killed her daughter. They just didn't know which one. We were in the house, must have been the parents. That was their sole focus. And so none of this was done because in their minds, they knew the answer. And despite the evidence, despite DNA, despite fingerprints, I mean, so they just didn't do it. Why do it? They know the answer.
Yeah.
And that's why this new chief of police coming in is so important. That group mentality, groupthink mentality was just poisonous.
And I think a little bit of pride gets into that too, right?
Oh, sure.
Like, you're not going to tell us we were wrong about what we thought. You can't change our mind.
That's huge. You know, the police made up their mind the first day that we were guilty. Before any evidence was retrieved, you know, the forensic people that came in retrieved some good evidence. They found unidentified male DNA on JonBenet's underwear and so forth. But they'd made up their mind. And now we just got to wrap it up. Figure out which pair was it, which one it was.
Unbelievable. All right, stay where you are. Our guests, our experts are staying with us. When we come back, what do you want to know about the JonBenet Ramsey investigation? We've got a live studio audience filled with questions, answers when we return.
Weeknights on Court TV.
I'm Vinnie Politan. Welcome to Closing Arguments. We have a big hour ahead here.
Your deplorable actions are unforgivable.
The community still doesn't know how this Boston police officer died.
He can't prove one element of his case.
It was a dramatic day, a dramatic moment inside the courtroom.
What's happening here?
It's unreal. Let me show you exactly what happened.
Closing Arguments with Vinnie Politan. Weeknights at 8, 7 Central. Only on Court TV.
What are your thoughts about the JonBenet case, the JonBenet murder?
They will find the culprit. It was not the family.
I believe that this might be the year. I do not believe anybody in the family was involved, and I think DNA is going to be the answer to this.
I am still surprised at how much was fumbled early on in the story. I don't think we have all the answers still yet, and there's so many people close to the Ramseys that I wish had been looked into a little bit more.
A lot of chatter when I was asking the question about JonBenet Ramsey, because this is a true crime convention. These folks know the story. Even the younger true crime junkies here know the JonBenet story, and everyone is hopeful that there's some solution to all of it, and most people are puzzled why it hasn't happened yet. Take a listen. Any lingering questions about the case, the investigation?
Yeah, was it linked to the girl that was the case that was down the street kind of thing?
I have questions about the friend of John Ramsey who they kind of got in an argument and stopped speaking, and I'm sorry I don't remember the name right now, but I would like to hear more from him and kind of their relationship and what actually caused them to no longer speak.
And that brings us to the next question in our investigation. And again, it's about you. What do you want to know about the JonBenet investigation? And we've got our live studio audience here staying with us, and they've got some questions. We'll begin over here. Question, comment about the investigation?
Well, like I was talking about you guys earlier, that it seems that DNA can still solve cases 30, 40, 50 years old. They always have an excuse about it, even after you offered to do the DNA testing. You think there's any chance at all that they've lost it and they're just covering their butts?
Oh, wow. Wow.
Serious question. And I've wondered that because there's no reason not to do this at this point in time.
Yeah.
And you know, I've never asked them that directly, and I should have probably. Have you lost it?
I'll do it. Oh, no, I'm asking.
Yeah, please do. You know, I tried to respect their integrity and not insult them, but that's crossed my mind.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Paula, investigative reporter, any chance that you could get the answer or that it happened?
I think there's a very good chance. Why have they've been stalling for so long? Why aren't there answers? I have no idea if they have this minuscule amount of DNA or not, but why are you stalling? And when you've got a company like Othram, they have a booth here, excellent company, and they said, yes, they can test the DNA without losing any DNA. And they are the experts in the world. So you certainly have to ask that question. Great question.
Yeah, that was a fantastic question. It's a hard act to follow, but come on, give it a shot.
How am I going to compete with that, Vinny? Hi, Mr. Ramsey. It's been a pleasure to meet you this weekend. I really enjoyed speaking with you last night. My question's a little unconventional, but will you share a little something with us about JonBenet, maybe about your special relationship with her?
She was named after me. My middle name is Bennett.
Okay.
And so Patsy came up with this JonBenet. We had good friends that felt that they should name their children unusual names, which they would help them go through school and teachers would remember. And so Patsy was convinced that was a great idea. So she came up with JonBenet as a name for JonBenet. We call her JB, but she was very proud of that. She was named after her dad, and I was
That's very sweet.
Thankful that she was proud of that.
Thank you.
We had a very special bond. It was unusual close. I mean, I'd lost my oldest daughter, Beth, in a car accident.
I remember that.
A couple of years before that, and JonBenet just stuck with me like glue. And it was a real blessing to me that she gave me almost like extra attention.
It's a very important relationship, though, a daughter and her father. Yeah.
And she got older, and then she became very close to Patsy. But for that little period of time when it really meant something to me, because of my loss of Beth. Having JonBenet just hang on to me was really.
Thank you so
God
much.
bless you.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you.
Hi, Mr. Ramsey. First of all, sorry for your loss. But my question would be, is there any chance that there would be some DNA available now in the home that you could go back to?
I can't quite hear.
Any DNA potentially at the home still all these years later, inside the house?
I doubt it, because, we never went back in the house after that morning.
Because it just seemed like the new operating machine that they had could go back that far.
Yeah.
Maybe they could go in and extract some for where she was found, perhaps.
That's a great question and great observation. Yeah, the machine that we highlighted here digs 66 times more, can gather more DNA from a site versus swabbing. We have time for one more question.
Yeah, I'm a father, and I actually remember when this happened. My daughter was 6 years old, and it was very touching, and I don't think I could have handled it as well as you did. I commend you for it, and I really hope to find out who did this.
You. No, I've experienced. I hate to admit it, 81 years old. So I've had a life of ups and downs, as I know all of you have. That's one thing I've learned, that everybody's carrying a burden that's tough to carry. But the loss of a child is the worst.
I just wish you the best. I really, I'm a lot like these other people up here. I think the police dropped the ball. They've lost it.
Yep.
They're not going to recover.
I think we could get a unanimous verdict on that.
They're not going to admit it, and they're not going to do anything. You're going to pass away. Everybody's going to go on, and it's going to go away.
Go away. Right. Thank you so much.
Thank you very
John
much.
Ramsey, thank you so much.
You,
good luck in getting the answer and the justice for JonBenet.
Thank you.
And keep banging the drum. Keep banging the drum.
We will.
All right. That's it for tonight. Thank you all for watching CrimeCon 2025. If you haven't been to it, you have to come. The people here are amazing. The experts, the stories that you hear are amazing. I'm Vinnie Politan. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for coming by. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Great to meet you. Thank you. You two are stars. Stars. Absolutely. Thank you so much. Fantastic. Good job. Excellent.